Well, welcome back, everyone, or welcome if it's your first time meditating with us. This is the weekly WeAwake meditation period, and we select a track from our amazing library of transformative meditation audio tracks each week to do something together because it's really good, and you should practice every day. That's the dealio. But it's also there's tons of scientific evidence that when people meditate together, there is a field that's created, and we have found through this time of going through the pandemic and everything that it seems to be doesn't have anything to do with time or space. It just happens immediately. And the scientists have found, the quantum scientists have found that something can happen in this portion of the universe, and then 100,000 light years away, cause something to happen on the same. Because of that, they don't know why that is, but there seems to be no causal uh, connection at all, and that things just happen. So if something that weird can happen, and the deeper we get into reality, whichever word we're looking, whether inner exploration or psychedelics or science, which cuts, just focus on when it focuses, the reality gets just more amazing, and all the time, and it keeps just it up. And they have this new James telescope that's looking out to the far reaches of beginning of time, at least as we know it, with the Big Bang, and way back there at the very beginnings, just 100 million years or less. Now, that's a really short time in cosmic time, because the whole thing is only about 13.8 or 0.7 billion years old. But they are finding highly formed, organized galaxies where there shouldn't be any, because it just hadn't been enough time, according to the way that we've studied and learned, to be there. So again, the universe, que pasa, So anyway, it is an amazing reality, and one of the most amazing things in the physical realm that's been developed is this old noggin here, believe it or not. And there may be more evolved and things of this sort in different places in the universe, which I think is highly likely, but we haven't found them yet, or at least I haven't found them yet. Until I meet ET and go on home, I have a little doubt, but it's not a cynical doubt. It's just like, I don't know, agnostic. I just don't know, but it seems likely. So all that to say, I was reading this book, H.A. Almas Hamid, and it's called Runaway Realization, and it has and that's a great thing, doing this podcast, the Deep Transformation podcast, which you can get wherever you have you get your podcast. And if you don't get your podcast, well, get a podcast. They're really good, especially this one. And we've done two conversations with him so far, and he is one of the great sages that's on the planet right now. Man of deep wisdom and knowledge, and experiential knowledge, yet at the same time very human, very humble, just very just a really good human and great guy. And this is a chapter on practice, basically. And he says there are other powerful drives in the human being, and that are just like built into the programming. The survival drive, right? When something happens immediately, your the survival part of you kicks in. The sexual, obviously, for the very fact that we're here and there's so many of us, it's like people had sex, right? And if it were just a bummer, there wouldn't be many people. But apparently, anyway, I won't get into that. So, and social, all right, the social drive to connect with other human beings or even beings. But he says later on, in the maturation of the soul, a new drive uh, comes forth as powerful and as real as the other would. And this is the enlightenment drive. Okay. So, and it can start at different centers, and the head, yeah, it's good. I go through the heart, and he says, but when it gets down into your belly, the hara, I think that the Japanese call it, that body center, when the drive reaches that place, then it becomes almost unstoppable. And the drive to many sages and Zen masters have said that meditation is enlightenment. The very fact that we're doing it is like, really? So anyway, let's when you have these powerful drives, you have to learn to work with them, and to the sexual drive, right? I mean, you would have, it's just not possible to have sex with everyone you're attracted to. It would be ridiculous. No work would get done. People would just be, like the Beatles songs, why don't we do it in the road, that sort of thing. And so, and the social drive, we have to learn how to get along, and that it's not okay to invade other countries just because you really want it bad. Okay. Because there's people there that really think it's their home, and they won't be too happy about that. So we have to learn to negotiate the social. But I'd also say we have to learn to negotiate this enlightenment drive. And of course, at WeAwake, that's always been, at least one of my main focuses, if not the chief one, is a spiritual aspect of practice. And we have thousands of years of masters and teachings us how to do that from different traditions and different places and different wisdom streams. But in the 20th century, it all started to coming together, and everybody, I'm doing a Trump thing, sorry. Everybody was able finally to start comparing notes and seeing what they were saying. And some swamis and whatnot came to the United States, early 20th century, even before that. And they started sharing the wisdom of the East, and human psychology, and the Freudian, and the traditions, and even in the Judeo-Christian traditions, there's these deep esoteric spiritual teachings. Okay, and it's for me it's obvious in the Jewish one, but it took us a while in the Christian, where I come from, to rediscover our great mystics, and Meister Eckhart, and the various teachers that emerged. And of course, a lot of them were during the medieval times, in the Catholic phase, where they really had to watch out what they were saying, because if they stepped over a certain line, like I am that I am, and that's me, you would get invited to a barbecue where you were the dish. So anyway, but it's still there, and all this coming together. And of course, I'm doing it again, I'll stop that. And all the wisdom of these times, and of course the technological revolution, for better for worse. The Pandora's box is open, and we're not going to get it back in. And so let's hope that we can use it for good. And that's what we've been not struggling with, but sometimes it's a struggle, but working with at WeAwake, is to create tools that make this deep drive for enlightenment, for an awakening, for understanding who and what we are at the deepest levels, the things that our ancestors have always questioned. I mean, this has been part of the human thing, as far as we know, forever, whether it's, cave art, or when the writing started to emerge. It was, besides ledgers about who sold the camel to who, the real writing that came up was all spiritual. That's just part of us. And now with this technology that we have, we're not negating the traditions of the past or the learnings of the past, but we're just adding to it. Yes, and it's with a new understanding of brain, and the new understanding how that we can reach these altered states of of meditation and deep peace and healing and wisdom and all these things that are part of us, inside of us, with more efficacy and on a more regular basis. And why is that? Because we really need it now. We're really going through evolutionary, super extraordinarily challenging times. So, with that said, let us get ready. We're doing the track. It's called Deeply Theta, and there's 3 tracks. And this is Theta is that the brainwave state that is it goes alpha, beta, alpha, and then theta, and under that delta. But theta is a really interesting brainwave link, and it's kind of the numinous border between the subconscious and the conscious mind. And it's where a lot of information comes from. Those 2 realms come together. So it can be understandings, it can be visual, like in dreams. It's all very theta related, where we go into these other things. And so all this kind of information and revelation can come from these tracks. And also it's a deeply slowing down from our normal busy, right? All this stuff, and to a state that's really necessary to reach if we are going to be, healthy people. And we're not going to get physically, spiritually, and morally ill. So let's do it together. And like I said, it's 20 minutes, and assume the position. Right, sit up straight. If you can, if you can't, you sit however you can. Spine straight, and breathe deeply. You can get to a place where you breathe out for 6 seconds and then turn around and breathe in for 6 seconds. And if you get down to that particular rhythm, it's very powerful. As per our dear friend and colleague Dawson Church, with whom we're releasing a meditation track, a guided meditation. Very wise man, a mystic and a scientist, and anyway, terrific guy. So I kind of learned that particular one, I think, from him. So 6 in, 6 out, and we will be here. And yeah, I think it's good to focus on your heart center, and when your thoughts take you away, just come on back, come on back, come on back, and then we'll reach the states, and whatever we need to be experiencing or learning at this time, the universe is faithful. Yes, the universe is intelligent. Okay, so we'll come through. So without any further speaking, let's meditate. Well, how was that, everyone? I guess I'm the only one who gets to speak here, so I'll tell you how it went for me. I had a memory of a horse I had when I was a young man or a boy turning into a young man, and his name was Dan. And he was a quarter horse. And I grew up with horses, and I smell horses. I just love horses. And so I had this horse, but it was at a time when it was, I don't know, the 66, 67, 68, around that period. And I had one brother, I was the youngest, one brother who was infantryman in Vietnam War, and the other brother ran off and hate Astray and all that, and was a hippie and doing psychedelics and all. He was like 16, and so I was left at home, and everything that was going on, and trying to figure out who I was. And I was like a jock, I was playing football. I was also a head, or a hippie, they called them back then. So I had myself was all divided, and I was like any young person. I was trying to figure out who the heck I was. And so all that to say, I didn't give my horse enough attention. It was a good horse, and I felt, it feels bad. I'm sorry. I apologized to Dan in that meditation. And what can we do with things like that when we've done unwise or unkind things? Well, we can take a vow that I will be, specifically, I'll be kind to horses for the rest of my forever, and animals. And that's a good vow. And that's when the practice begins to spill out into the rest of the world. And one time on a vision quest, when I was starting this wilderness program for adults or people that were over 18, and the first group we got, we didn't even charge anything for it. It's just give us some bodies, right? Give us some people we'll take out and see if this thing works. And they're a bunch of, I put it politely, thugs from New Jersey. And anyway, so we were wandering through, and we started like in the high desert of Utah on January something. It's like, why would you start a wilderness program in the hardest part of winter? I have no idea, but we did. And at the end of it, we were all deeply affected and transformed and beat up and beat together and opened. And we ended it with a vision quest where we took out, there were three of us. One was a Derwin, he was Dakota, and he was a medicine person. And then I had one of my best friends ever, David Holliday, is an incredible wilderness guy, and primitive skills, and really the heart of a saint, all that together. He's quite the package. So we were out there, these poor guys didn't have much of a chance, and with the wilderness of Utah, my God. So they're all out in the middle of winter, out on vision quests, fasting and praying, which is like, man, things we did. So one of the young men was, he had not been a good guy, and he'd been very abusive to women. And I don't know all the details, and I won't count them, but let's say he didn't treat women well. So on his vision quest, he was by this river or creek, maybe a little bigger than what you think of a creek and a little smaller than a river anyway. And he saw these spirits arising out of the desert, and they were approaching him. They were like coming over the water, and they were just pointing, you. And he's like, of course, he's terrified. And then he has a vision of Mother Mary, and she's like bloodied and hurt. And at that time, Derwin, we go and check on people, saw him, and he was just devastated. He said, okay, son, you got your vision. He pulled him off, and he took him back to camp and put him next to the fire. And he was just, so after this was all over, we got the groups back together, and there were other similarly very interesting experiences. And out there, just aside, it's a great story, and it happened. There was an old outhouse from, I don't know, mining days or something, just an old wood structure, and Derwin put one of the students to do his fishing quest in this old outhouse. Is that like abusive or what? Well, it turned out it was absolutely perfect, and you can imagine what he learned from that experience. But anyway, so we were doing this sweat lodge, and we we're going and praying and counting this, and the guy that had the vision of it by the river he was just still devastated and opened up. And anyway, and I was kind of, I don't know, I was leading the lodge or part of that. I said, sometimes when you've hurt people as an AA, you can go back and try to make amends. Sometimes you can't, because you don't know who they are, where they are, and to approach them again would be more damaging. And making amends is not to make you feel better; it's to help the people that you hurt. So you need to take a vow now that for the rest of your life you are going to treat all women, regardless of the circumstances, with great honor and great love and great respect, and defending them if necessary with your life, if it comes down to that. Yeah. Said, yeah. And then he grabbed hands of the people next to him, and we all grabbed hands. We're sitting there in our lodge out in the middle of the desert at night, a cold winter night in a sweat lodge. And he did the Catholic prayer. And those of us who knew it, Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou amongst women. We all did that prayer together. It's just like, wow. And last I heard of, he's gotten married, raised a kid, and did good. Got a job, supported his family. He's a good man. So all that to say is that we sometimes we can't fix the past, but we can definitely choose a different future. And getting into quantum physics again, which I read about. I read one time that they say that things in the present can change the past. Go figure that out. So wouldn't it be wonderful if we could do that? All the individual stupid things and hurtful things we've done, could go back into some parallel universe where we're just reversing it, doing it different. It's a heck of a thing. So, may it be so. You don't know, but you can change how you act in the future, present, and you can. It's kindness to all human beings and respect to women. That's something that you've specifically been bad about. Animals, with kindness and love and support as sentient fellow travelers who have souls, by the way, in case you didn't know. So that's what we can do. We can look back, see what we did, and feel the feelings that are appropriate, and ask for forgiveness, whether the people are alive or not with us anymore, and then commit to kindness and service and respect and being a protector, children, however that works out, and animals and all that. So, well, we can do better. And when things emerge, it gives us a place to stand and something to correct and something to fix. So God help us to be better people and do a better job. And it won't be perfect, but trying is infinitely better than just staying asleep and doing nothing. So, God bless you guys. Thank you.